Okay, so trying to make sense of observability tools, I feel you. It's a lot, right? Cloud infrastructure keeps getting more and more complex.
And all the data it generates, it's overwhelming.
Right. So that's where these tools come in to try and give you that visibility. But how do you pick one? There's just so many.
Yeah.
So that's why we're here today. We're going to dive deep into 3 popular options. At least that's what your research says. Coralogix, Dynatrace, and the ELK Stack.
Right.
Based on all the stuff that you gave me, we're going to break down each one, the good, the bad, and try to help you figure out which one might work best for your situation.
And it can't just be about features and use cases, though, right? We've got to think about, like, the philosophy behind each tool.
Exactly.
You know, how it handles the data, how it analyzes it, and then at the end of the day, like, how it helps you actually do something with it.
Exactly.
Take action.
So let's jump in. Coralogix, what stands out to you about this platform?
Well, the first thing that jumps out at me about Coralogix is, like, this focus on real-time streaming analytics and machine learning.
Okay.
Instead of, waiting to batch process logs, Coralogix analyzes them on the fly.
Huh.
This is super valuable for any organization that needs insights, like immediately. Think about those rapid development cycles where agility is key.
Right. So you're saying it's kind of like a live stream of your system's health.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can catch those little issues before they become big problems.
Totally. You're on the same page.
What about their machine learning, though? How does that fit in?
Oh, so Coralogix uses machine learning for, like, anomaly detection. It's always analyzing your data to find patterns. So when something's off, when something's outside the norm, it's going to flag it for you.
Okay.
This way you can find those little red flags, those subtle ones that might otherwise get lost in, all the noise of all the other data.
Right.
Plus, their whole approach to data retention, where you only pay for what you need, can be huge for teams trying to keep costs down.
Yeah, makes sense.
Saves money.
That's smart. Managing costs when you're dealing with so much data, that's always a challenge. Okay, let's move on. Dynatrace, what's their big thing?
So Dynatrace is known for those enterprise-grade monitoring capabilities, especially its AI-driven automation, and they call it Davis AI.
Davis AI, okay.
It's not just a catchy name, though.
Right.
Like, think about it. Dynatrace's Davis AI can analyze the performance of thousands of microservices at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Finding bottlenecks and even, like, suggesting fixes in your code. That level of automation is a game changer for any enterprise-scale app where complexity can be a real nightmare.
So it's almost like having this AI assistant who's just constantly monitoring and tweaking and optimizing your system so your team can focus on the bigger picture.
Yeah.
But it's probably not cheap, right?
You got it. Dynatrace is a premium solution, for sure.
Yeah.
And you are paying for all those features and that advanced automation. But if you're a large organization and you need that much power and automation,
right,
it might be worth it. You got to find the right balance, between cost and what it can actually do for you.
Makes sense. So we've got the kind of the agile, cost-effective option with Coralogix, and then we've got the big, powerful, maybe pricey one with Dynatrace. What about ELK? What sets them apart?
The ELK stack, that's Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana. Altogether, that's the open source king of observability.
Okay.
It's like super flexible and customizable, which is a huge plus if you like to tinker, And you have the team that can manage the infrastructure themselves.
So if you're okay getting into the code, ELK gives you that freedom?
Totally.
But there's downsides, right, to all this freedom.
You need some serious technical skills to set up, maintain, and troubleshoot the ELK stack.
Okay.
And while it might be cheaper in terms of licensing fees because it's open source,
right,
your operational costs are probably going to go up as you grow, especially if you're not already familiar with how these technologies work.
So ELK, it really depends on your existing setup and your team skills. Okay, so now that we have idea about each of these, let's get into like a feature-by-feature comparison.
Yeah, let's do it.
Just really see how they stack up against each other. You gave me this table highlighting all the key features, and I'd love to get your take on all this.
Absolutely. Let's jump in.
So first up is cost efficiency. We talked about this a little bit, but I want to hear, how do the different pricing models and ways they handle data retention actually affect the overall cost?
It's super important to remember that cost efficiency isn't just about the sticker price, right?
Right.
You got to factor in things like how much it costs to operate it, storage costs, and the time your team spends managing the platform. Like we talked about, Coralogix's streaming analytics and their tiered data retention are all about saving your money by cutting down on the amount of data you got to store and process. And this could be a game changer if you're on a tight budget.
So you're paying for the insights, not just for the data itself. Interesting.
Yeah.
What about ELK? How do they handle cost efficiency?
So ELK, being open source, gives you a ton of control over your spending. You can deploy it on-premise, in the cloud, whatever you want.
Okay.
You manage your own storage. This can save you a ton, especially if you have the team to handle it in-house.
Right.
But as your data grows, you might need to spend more on hardware and even hire more people to keep up.
So it sounds like ELK's cost effectiveness really hinges on what you already have.
Yeah.
Your infrastructure and your team's skills. Now, Dynatrace, we said it's a premium solution, but what does that mean dollar-wise?
Dynatrace's pricing is based on how many hosts or apps you're monitoring
Uh-huh.
and the features you choose. They have a lot of features. And they use indexed data storage, so it could be more expensive upfront compared to Coralogix or ELK.
Right.
But you're getting a fully managed solution with all that advanced automation, so you could save a lot of time and effort in the long run.
So it's about weighing those features against the cost. Okay, let's talk about AI-driven insights, because this seems to be a big difference between them.
Yeah.
What do you think about how each platform uses AI?
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Dynatrace is definitely leading the pack when it comes to AI with their Davis AI.
Uh-huh.
It's not just about finding anomalies. It can actually predict potential problems, analyze how everything's connected, and even suggest fixes. It's like having a whole team of expert engineers constantly watching your systems and stopping problems before they happen.
That's amazing. But what about Coralogix and ELK? Do they even have AI capabilities?
Coralogix does. It uses machine learning for anomaly detection. It's great at finding those outliers in your data that might be a sign of trouble. ELK, on the other hand, doesn't have any built-in AI.
Oh.
But since it's open source, you can always integrate it with third-party AI tools if you need to.
So if you need cutting-edge AI-driven automation, Dynatrace is the way to go. But if anomaly detection and keeping costs low are your priorities, then Coralogix might be better.
Yeah,
And if you're all about that DIY approach and you're okay with integrating other tools, ELK gives you that flexibility. So it really just depends what you need and your budget.
totally. Yeah, choose the right tool for the right job.
Right, right. Okay, let's talk about automation and remediation. Like, how can these tools help teams streamline their workflows and, reduce that manual effort?
This is where we see some clear differences.
Okay.
Dynatrace, with its Davis AI, is like the automation king.
Uh-huh.
Not only can it find problems, it can actually trigger fixes automatically
Wow.
based on rules you set up, or even using machine learning. Think of it like a self-healing system.
That sounds like a dream for anyone dealing with complex systems.
Yeah.
Especially with all those frequent deployments. Now, what about Coralogix? Do they offer any automation?
They do, yeah. Mostly for alerting and incident management. You can set up rules to trigger alerts based on certain events
Okay.
and even integrate with other tools for automated incident response. But it's not as extensive as what Dynatrace offers.
So it's more focused on making sure you know what's going on so you can react quickly. What about ELK automation with them?
With ELK, you got to get a little more hands-on. It doesn't have built-in automation, so you'd have to use custom scripts, integrate other tools, or even build your own workflows.
Okay.
This could be super powerful if you have the expertise and the time, but it's definitely not a plug-and-play kind of solution.
Right. So for those who like building their own solutions, ELK is there. But for those who want something ready to go, Dynatrace is probably the winner here.
Yeah.
With Coralogix somewhere in between.
Yeah, right in between.
Okay, last but not least, let's talk security. Especially these days, it's just so important. What do you think about how these tools handle security?
You're right, security is crucial.
Yeah.
It's good to see that all three platforms take it seriously, although in different ways. Coralogix really stands out with its built-in SIEM, security information, and event management.
Okay.
It lets you connect security data from all sorts of sources,
Okay.
find threats, and react fast. This is a huge plus if you're looking for a way to improve your security without breaking the bank.
So Coralogix kind of brings security and observability together in one package. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
What about Dynatrace? How do they handle security?
Dynatrace has some really strong security monitoring features.
Yeah.
Track user activity, find suspicious behavior, and identify potential weaknesses.
Okay.
It can also work with your existing security tools to give you a complete view of your security landscape. But it doesn't have a dedicated CM like Coralogix does.
So more about monitoring and integration than a dedicated SIEM. And ELK, what about them for security?
With ELK, you can basically build your own security solutions.
Right.
Since it's open source, you can integrate security tools, create your own rules, even build your own CM if you have the skills.
Right.
But that also means you're in charge of managing and maintaining all of that yourself.
So it's the DIY security approach, which means it's flexible, but you need a lot of time and expertise. It seems like that's kind of a recurring theme with ELK.
It is.
That flexibility comes with more complexity and management overhead.
Yeah, you're right. It's always a trade-off. Flexibility versus ease of use.
So we've covered a lot here, comparing these three tools feature by feature.
We have.
And it's clear that each tool is good for different things and has a different target audience.
Yeah.
But how do you actually choose the right one for your specific situation? What are the most important things to think about?
Luckily, your research has some clear answers.
Okay.
It comes down to a few key things. Your organization's size and complexity, your budget and resources, your team's technical expertise, and what you want to achieve with observability in the first place. Like, what are your use cases?
Okay, that makes sense. Let's start with organization size and complexity. How does that play into the decision?
So if you're a small startup, limited resources, pretty simple infrastructure,
Right.
Coralogix is a great place to start. It's affordable, easy to use, and it gives you those powerful real-time analytics and CM capabilities.
So good for teams that need to get going quickly.
Exactly.
What about bigger organizations with, more complicated needs?
For those larger companies with those big complex systems,
Right.
Dynatrace might be a better fit. It's got enterprise-grade monitoring, that AI-driven automation,
Right.
and really comprehensive security features. It can handle the challenges of a large, complex environment.
So choose a tool that can grow with you, right? And handle all those complexities.
Exactly.
Now, what about ELK? Where does it fit in?
ELK can work for any size organization.
Okay.
But it's best for teams who really value flexibility, they like customization, and they have the in-house skills to manage it.
Right.
It's all about finding the tool that matches your needs and your capabilities.
Gotcha. Okay, let's talk about budget and resource constraints. How much does cost matter in this decision?
Cost is always a big deal, especially for startups and smaller companies. Coralogix is usually the most affordable option,
Right.
with its tiered data retention and focus on those real-time analytics.
Makes sense. So if you're looking for the most value for your money, Coralogix is a good choice.
It is.
What about Dynatrace and ELK, though?
Dynatrace is a premium product, so it costs more upfront.
Right.
But it can save you money in the long run because of the automation and reduced operational overhead.
Okay.
ELK, being open source, can be pretty cost-effective if you can manage it yourself.
Right.
But you have to consider the costs of hardware, staff, and keeping it running.
So it's all about weighing those upfront costs, the long-term savings, and the value of automation and how easy it is to use.
Exactly.
All right, last one, technical expertise and infrastructure preferences. How does your team's existing skills and your infrastructure affect your choice of tools?
So if your team loves open source and likes to do things themselves, ELK could be a great fit. But you need a certain level of expertise to set it up, configure it, and keep it running smoothly.
Right, not for beginners then. What about Coralogix and Dynatrace?
Coralogix is known for being really user-friendly.
Okay.
So it doesn't require as much technical expertise compared to ELK.
Right.
This makes it a good option for teams with limited resources or who prefer a more intuitive platform.
Makes sense.
Dynatrace also has a user-friendly interface, and they have great support and documentation. But to really use those advanced features, you'll need to understand observability concepts a little better.
So choose a tool that matches your team's skill set.
Exactly.
Okay, finally, your specific goals and use cases, how do those affect your choice?
If your main focus is real-time log analysis and security monitoring, then Coralogix with that built-in CM could be the perfect choice.
Right.
If you're more interested in comprehensive application performance monitoring and AI-driven automation,
Right.
then Dynatrace might be better.
Okay.
And if you need something flexible that you can customize to fit your exact needs, ELK gives you the freedom to do that.
So match the tool to your goals. It's not a one-size-fits-all.
Absolutely. Each tool has its own strengths and weaknesses. The key is picking the one that best meets your specific needs.
Okay, this has been incredibly helpful. You've really cleared up all this confusion about observability tools. So to recap for our listeners, we've got Coralogix, cost-effective, user-friendly, powerful, real-time analytics and CM capabilities. Dynatrace, the powerhouse with its advanced AI-driven automation and all those monitoring features.
Yeah.
And ELK, the open source trap, super flexible and customizable for those who have the technical chops to handle it.
You got it. The right tool for the right job.
Now, I know our listeners are probably thinking, okay, how do I actually apply all this to my own situation? What should they do to choose the right tool for their needs?
Great question. The first thing is to figure out your observability goals. What are you trying to achieve? What problems are you trying to solve?
Right.
What skills does your team have, and what are your budget and resources? Once you have a good understanding of your needs, you can start comparing the different tools and see which one aligns with what you're looking for.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's probably good to actually try them out, right?
Absolutely. Most of these tools have free trials or demos. Get your hands dirty, see how they work in your environment. Don't be afraid to play around with different options before you commit.
So do your research, experiment, and find what works best for you.
Exactly. And it's not a one-time thing, Your needs are going to change over time, so stay updated on what's happening in observability and be willing to adjust as things change.
Great advice. Okay, before we move on, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about.
Right.
We've talked about the tech stuff, but what about the human side of things? What skills and mindsets are important for success in this observability world?
That's a great question, and it's something we'll definitely get into in our next segment. Stay tuned. It's funny, we spent all this time talking about, all the technical stuff these tools can do.
Yeah.
But observability really shines when you combine that with, human skills.
Right. It's not enough to just have the tools.
Yeah.
You need the right people with the right skills to use them effectively.
Exactly.
So what kind of skills are we talking about here?
Well, first of all, you need people who are comfortable with data.
Okay.
That means, a solid understanding of statistics, data visualization, how to analyze data. They need to be able to pull out those meaningful insights from all that data these tools generate.
Right.
And then they got to be able to explain those insights to other people clearly.
So it's not just about being a techie.
No.
It's about being data fluent, being able to tell a story with the data.
Exactly. But it's not just about the numbers, right?
Right.
You also need people who are, curious, creative, people who are good at solving problems.
Okay.
Observability is all about asking the right questions, exploring different possibilities, and ultimately finding the root cause of a problem.
It's like being a detective, right?
Yeah.
Following the clues, putting the pieces together, solving the mystery.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And just like a detective, people who work in observability need to be able to think critically, challenge assumptions, connect the dots, and they need to be adaptable, willing to constantly learn new things because this tech is always changing.
So it's a mix of technical skills, analytical thinking, and a growth mindset.
Definitely.
But you also mentioned collaboration.
Yeah.
Why is that so important in observability?
Well, you're rarely working alone in this field.
Right.
You need to be able to work well with different teams, different departments, sharing information. Sharing insights, best practices, it's about breaking down those silos and creating a culture where everyone feels ownership and responsibility.
So it's not just about having a dedicated observability team. It's about making observability a part of everyone's job, right?
Exactly. And that's where leadership comes in.
Okay.
Leaders need to create an environment where observability is valued, by everyone in the company.
Yeah.
They need to provide the training, the resources, the support to empower their teams to really succeed with it.
So it's not just about buying the fancy new tools. It's about investing in your people, building that culture observability.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, let's shift gears a little bit
Okay.
and talk about something that's on everyone's mind these days, security.
Yeah.
We talked about the security features when we were comparing the tools,
Uh-huh.
but it's worth diving a little deeper.
Definitely.
What are your thoughts on how observability can actually make things more secure?
Well, security is non-negotiable these days.
Right.
And as systems get more complex, more connected, there are more and more ways for attackers to get in.
Yeah.
Observability tools are so important, not just for detecting threats,
Right.
but for understanding what happened, how bad it is, and how to prevent it from happening again.
It's not just about knowing that something went wrong.
No.
It's about understanding exactly what happened,
Yeah.
where the weakness is, and how to fix it.
And that's where observability is really powerful.
Okay.
By combining data from different sources, logs, metrics, traces, security alerts,
Yeah.
you can get this complete picture of your system's security. You can see how an attacker moved through your network,
Wow.
what data they got, what they did.
It's like having a security camera
Yeah.
that not only records everything, but also analyzes it for you.
Exactly.
Highlights the important stuff, connects the dots.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And that kind of visibility is crucial for responding to incidents effectively.
Right.
The faster you can figure out what happened,
Yeah.
the faster you can contain the damage and get back to normal.
So basically, observability helps security teams be both proactive and reactive.
Yes.
They can find and fix vulnerabilities before they're exploited.
Right.
And respond quickly when an attack does happen.
Exactly. And as AI and automation become more integrated with these platforms, we'll see even bigger advancements in threat detection and response.
Okay.
Imagine a system that can automatically identify and quarantine a compromised part of your system.
Wow.
Or even predict and prevent attacks before they even happen.
That sounds like something out of a movie.
I know, right?
But it's becoming a reality.
It is.
Okay, let's get specific.
Sure.
What are some must-have security features that companies should look for in an observability tool?
Well, you definitely need a platform that gives you complete visibility across your entire system.
Okay.
You can't secure what you can't
Mm.
see. That means collecting and analyzing data from all the important sources, logs, metrics, traces, security events.
Yeah.
You need that single pane of glass view. Everything is one place.
And it needs to be built with security as a top priority, right?
Absolutely.
From the ground up.
Yes.
Strong authentication, authorization, encryption of sensitive data, and compliance with all the relevant security standards.
All of that.
What about specific features like threat detection and anomaly detection? How important are those?
Those are critical. You want a platform that can spot suspicious activity
Mm-hmm.
and alert your team right away.
Okay.
This could be things like unusual logins,
Right.
attempts to steal data,
Yeah.
or someone trying to access sensitive systems without permission.
It's all about staying ahead of the bad guys.
Exactly.
And AI and machine learning are becoming really important for threat detection, aren't they?
Definitely.
Can you talk about that a little more? I
Sure.
mean, they can analyze huge amounts of data
Exactly.
to find patterns and anomalies that humans might miss.
It's like having a security guard who never gets tired
Uh-huh.
and sees everything.
Right. That's amazing.
And don't forget about integrations. Your observability platform should work seamlessly with your other security tools,
Right.
like your SIEM, vulnerability scanners, and your incident response platform.
So it's all about building that unified security ecosystem.
Yeah, where everything works together.
Right. That makes sense.
That's what true observability is all about,
Uh-huh.
connecting the dots, gaining deeper insights, and taking action to improve not just performance and reliability, but also security.
Well said. Observability is a powerful tool in the fight against cyber threats.
It is.
Okay, before we wrap up this section, I want to touch on something we mentioned earlier, the future of observability.
Uh-huh.
What do you think will happen in this field in the coming years?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
One trend that's really exciting is how observability and AI are coming together.
Right.
We're already seeing it with tools like Dynatrace and their Davis AI,
Yeah.
but I think we're just getting started.
Wow.
Imagine systems that can not only find and diagnose problems, but also learn from them and automatically adapt to prevent them from happening again.
So we're talking about moving beyond just reacting to problems to
Yeah.
systems that can heal themselves.
Exactly. And I think we'll see more emphasis on observability as part of company culture, too.
Okay.
It's not just about having the tools.
Right.
It's about making those observability principles part of everything you do when developing software.
So shifting left, bringing observability into the design and development phases.
Yes. And I think this shift to a more holistic approach to observability will be crucial for companies to succeed in this world of cloud-native apps and distributed systems.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's not just about monitoring systems anymore. It's about really understanding them
Yeah.
and using that knowledge to constantly improve.
Exactly.
And that understanding will be key to unlocking the full potential of these technologies and creating truly resilient, scalable, and secure systems.
Couldn't agree more.
You know, through all this, talking about these tools and trends,
Yeah.
it really hits me how much data there are these days. It's a lot.
It's true, right? Like drowning in data, but still needing those insights.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole idea of observability so important.
Yeah, it's not just collecting it. It's got to make sense.
Right.
Got to find those nuggets of useful information and actually do something with them.
Turning data into knowledge and knowledge into power.
There you go.
But with this flood of data, how do we even keep up?
Well, I think the future of observability is going to be smarter,
Okay.
more automated solutions. We see hints of it already with things like Dynatrace's Davis AI. But imagine if your platform could not just spot problems,
Uh-huh.
but figure out why they're happening, suggest fixes, and even implement them,
Wow.
all without us lifting a finger.
That's wild. Like self-driving it.
Exactly, that shift towards AI doing more of the work.
Yeah.
It means we humans can focus on the bigger picture stuff, strategy, new ideas, making customers happy.
So it's not about replacing people, but making them more effective.
Exactly. Human smarts combined with machine smarts,
Right.
each doing what they're best at.
That brings us back to something we talked about before, human skills, even with all this AI.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
As machines get smarter, our human skills become even more important. Critical thinking, being creative, empathy, working together.
Right.
That's what sets us apart. That's how we thrive in this new world.
It's a good reminder that even with all this fancy tech, it's still people at the center of it.
Totally.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this
Okay.
observability. It's not like you reach the finish line. It's a constant process.
It is.
Learning, adapting, changing as our systems change and as we understand them better.
A journey of exploration. Kind of like this conversation.
Exactly. We've covered so much.
We have.
Specific tools, the big trends, the future of observability. And through it all, it comes back to people. The skills, the mindset, working together. That's how you succeed in this field.
Couldn't agree more.
I hope you listening out there feel ready to tackle this world of observability tools, to really embrace this whole new way of managing your systems.
Powerful stuff.
It is. It's not just about seeing what's happening. It's about knowing why it's happening, using that to make smarter choices,
Right.
build stronger systems, and reach your goals.
Well said.
And on that note, this deep dive comes to an end.
It does.
But this is just the start of your exploration into the amazing world of observable.
Keep learning.
Exactly. Happy observing, everyone.
Happy observing.
May your data always lead you to greater understanding.